Beret and the face of Operation Gideon, which began as Operation Edgemont. Welcome to the Gray Zone.
Thanks, Max. Appreciate it.
Jordan, you currently face arms trafficking charges from the U.S. government stemming from your involvement in Operation Gideon, which was this high profile attempted coup in Venezuela that's colloquially referred to as the Bay of Piglets. It was sort of a mercenary operation gone wrong, at least on the face of it. But as a result of your trial, you have gained access to documents that the public has never seen before that you say demonstrate that U.S. officials, Trump administration officials, and figures close to the Trump administration and the CIA knew about Operation Edgemont, which was the plan to invade Venezuela and arrest the country's president, Nicolas Maduro. And at the center of the story is a firm called Global Governments. I want you to talk about.
Okay, and this is what I want to dig into tonight. This interstitial business firm, Global Governments. And we're going to simultaneously research this Global Governments firm because it's super interesting. And it's kind of at the heart of how I do my investigations on all of these, like USAID, CIA, donor drafter class, blob analysis things.
What Operation Edgemont is, and tell us about the role of Global Governments. Who was it?
And I can't tell if he's saying Global Governments or Global Governance. What's on the pizza? Pineapple. I am a pineapple on pizza guy. Strictly pineapple. I want to see. I wonder if the Gray Zone has a write-up on this. Global governance, you think? Jordan. Is it Jordan Goudreau? I can't tell if he's saying global governance or global governments.
About Operation Edgemont, which was the plan to invade Venezuela and arrest the country's president, Nicolas Maduro. And at the center of the story is a firm called Global Governments.
Global Governments? Global Governments. Consulting firm. Uh-oh. Yeah, Global Governments. Global Governments Center. Global Governments Center. Interesting. Okay.
I want you to talk about what Operation Edgemont is and tell us about the role of Global Governments, who was involved in that group, and what were their objectives?
Yeah, let me just take it one step at a time. So the operation in of itself, I didn't, there's a lot of media and individuals and bad actors and whatnot. When the narrative came out, they were talking about how I was trying to find a way to flip Venezuela. I wasn't. Keith Schiller came to me. Global Governments came to me. I didn't even.
Keith Schiller. Keith Schiller came to me. Keith Schiller. Let's see, Keith, the president's former bodyguard. Trump's former bodyguard was livid that Goudreau may have used unauthorized material. Keith Schiller. In spring 2019, Schiller, one of Trump's close confidants from his years as a real estate developer in New York, attended several meetings concerning Venezuela. In spring 2019, so this is a couple months after Goudreau's CIA music festival at the Venezuelan border, Schiller attended a breakfast sponsored by Global Governments. During the breakfast, Schiller heard consultants at the firm pitch a Venezuela project that called for providing humanitarian aid and helping companies obtain business opportunities when Guaido ultimately became president of Venezuela, a prospect that at the time seemed close at hand. After the breakfast, Schiller learned that someone at Global Governments had placed his picture and biography on their website without his permission. Schiller attended a second meeting in mid-March when global governments sought contacts who could help with security and logistics in the event of a transition to a Guaido government. Someone who worked in private security told Schiller that Goudreau had done similar work in Puerto Rico following Hurricane Maria. Back to these hurricane relief USAID missions. Schiller then brought Goudreau to a third meeting in Florida in the summer of 2019. The meeting was attended by businessmen involved in construction, airline, and other industries. Oh, is that why Richard Branson, the CEO of Virgin, is that why Richard Branson was sponsoring this? Virgin Atlantic? Is that why Sir Richard Branson? Were they going to get airline favors from the new development hotspot, Venezuela? Was Richard Branson connected to global governments at all? I wonder. But this is, remember we did this thing. I wonder what I would search it by. HR. Remember there was that thing where it was like the HR lady you meet at the end of your CIA-backed coup? Yeah, there you go. Congratulations, you've successfully overthrown your government in a CIA-backed coup. Now here's the HR lady you meet at the end of your journey who tells you how your new government will work. Good governments.
The term good governance involves a process that is informed and to a degree monitored by and ultimately serves all members of society.
To see who rules over you. This rules over you. Because remember, this was the U.S. Institute of Peace focused on like Syria. And this was like at the end of this whole video series about you're going to need to go through the congratulations. We're going to help you riot your way into overthrowing the government and then make sure that the business contracts, the telecom contracts go to AT&T, the oil and gas contracts go to Chevron. You're going to put your country through privatization of your state-owned business assets and sell them off to George Soros. And market reforms. Your brand new government installed in an 18-month street campaign where the truckers are blocking the roads and the railway union is blocking the highways and the unemployed people and the youth are blocking the city streets. Then they surround the parliament building and they set everything on fire. You have a new government, and now you need to be told what your new government can do by this. All that work. And this is who rules over you. And to understand who this person answers to, it's to politicians and outside interests connected to these kind of business lobbying firms like global governments who are trying to take advantage in all the different industries of the favors a new government there could do for them. All the people who've gone bankrupt, all the people who've lost their jobs, all the institutions, all the buildings have been burned to the ground, all at the end of the day, to have this HR lady tell you exactly what your new government can and can't do. You can't sign this oil deal. You have to privatize this company. You have to sign up for this indentured servitude IMF loan. You have to sign over your oil to Chevron. You have to let Pizza Hut into your fucking country. It's a place just to plant all the mom and pop shops. You need to let Walmart in. This is going to give you your little good governance, good boy checklist. Right. And how that checklist is determined is by the donor drafter class business and finance folks, who are the ones who fund the politicians and who will give cushy parachutes to all the government employees after their time there, as a revolving door between government and outside private enterprise. Okay, so let's see. Oil and energy.
even know there was an initiative to do such a thing, obviously.
So this guy didn't even know, probably because this guy is advertising himself as Billy Badass, you know, pictures on his Instagram of him sprinting really fast and talking about how him and all his friends were kick-ass super soldiers in Afghanistan and they got a big squad for security. Probably, it sounds like Keith Schiller approached Jordan Goudreau after Keith Schiller got the idea or was asked by global governments, hey, who do you have in network that could help with an operation like this? And then Jordan Goudreau starts just talking a big game about his network and how badass they all are. And Keith probably approaches him because of that. That's probably how this started.
Keith Schiller came to me. Global governments came to me. I didn't even know there was an initiative to do such a thing. Obviously, back then, the Trump administration had been pushing for the CIA to find a way to get Maduro out. They were dragging their feet. This is evidenced by, there's a great Wired article, well-sourced, several CIA, case officers were sources on that article. But essentially, I get tasked to do this op. And ultimately, when you look at the very first email I sent out to the global government,
I get tasked to do this op. And then I send out an email to a private company consulting firm representing business interests in construction, airlines, oil and gas.
Government's team, which is in the discovery. There's obviously a ton of discovery that's come out. I even outlined that this will not be a bloody thing. This will be Venezuelans basically, retaking their own country. And so I think my strategy and certainly my intent for this op was to have Venezuelans take back their own country, right? And the way you do this, it's nuanced. I get it. On the surface, and the narrative is always going to be, wow, this was a coup, these dirty mercenaries with it. This was not the plan. It was not the initial plan, and it was never the plan. And obviously, to do something like this, it's actually called a military coup. And so you use units close to.
Hold on a second. That's not a good look, man. I'm just going to pull up the transcript. Did you hear that? He goes, I get tasked to do this op. I'm helping Venezuelans basically retake their own country. And the way you do this is it's nuanced. On the surface, the narrative is always going to be, well, this was a coup. This was not the plan. It was not the initial plan. It was never the plan. And obviously, to do something like this, it's called a military coup. The surface level narrative is going to be, this was a coup. But that's not true. It was a military coup. Brother, you just said it's the thing that you said people would wrongly say it was. It's a coup. The surface level narrative that this was a coup is true. A military coup is a form of coup. Oh boy. No, look, but obviously, CIA coups for dummies, as we've covered a million times, there are two ways to do a coup. A top-down military coup and a bottom-up color revolution, people-powered coup. And sometimes these can work in tandem. Back in the day, it was all military coups. But when Gene Sharp and the color revolution theoreticians began mastering this civil society coup mobilization strategy, bottom-up people-powered coups became the preferred way of doing things because they seemed to have more of a democratic patina over them because of so many people in the crowds. But yeah, it's a coup, dude. You just said it.
Not the plan. It was not the initial plan, and it was never the plan. And obviously to do something like this, it's actually called a military coup. And so you use units close to the president, well, or the leadership in Venezuela. At that point, it was three different leaders. It was Maduro, Cabello, and Tariq. And you develop access and placement to those leaders who have access maneuver unit or task maneuver units. So these units you align yourself with through the asset, whether it's a general, whoever has access, and these individuals do the heavy lifting. Now, several factors made that possible. Although it took me about a year and a half to get access and placement, the fact that all the pressure that was on the Maduro regime at the time was considerable. There was sanctions. There was, launching of a carrier or a destroyer group, much like there is now. There was, tremendous amount of saber rattling in the news. There were popular rebellions, all such, all of this designed to put pressure on the Maduro regime. I was able to, like I said, get access to these individuals because they were afraid. And I think the audience needs to understand that there's a tipping point when it comes to flipping a country. People surrounding a tyrannical leadership aren't going to want to.
There's a tipping point when it comes to flipping a country. This is a military coup. This is flipping the country. The surface level is that this was a coup. Sometimes what it looks like on the surface is indeed what it is in its soul.
It's not an easy decision for them to make, to betray that leader simply because they have families. And so if it's mistimed and they stay close to the tyrannical leader and another country comes in and a coup is successful, then those individuals will be treated just as badly by the incoming element as the target, which would have been, obviously Maduro, Cabello, Tariq. And so it's really difficult to get support. Now, obviously, when Mike Pompeo shut down the embassy in Caracas, it was virtually impossible for the CIA to run any meaningful human intelligence operations, which means.
Did you hear what he just said? When Mike Pompeo shut down the State Department embassy in Caracas, it made it virtually impossible for the CIA to collect human intelligence. What's the great Jeffrey Sachs quote? Why is the U.S. the only country in the world that's never been overthrown in a coup? Because it's the only country in the world without a U.S. embassy. Right? Because obviously there's no U.S. embassy in our own country. And what do I always say about CIA operations being run out of U.S. embassies? So Jordan Goudreau here is blaming Mike Pompeo, the CIA director turned State Department secretary, for shutting down the U.S. embassy and therefore eliminating the CIA's maneuverability on the ground by seeking as it seeks diplomatic cover within the U.S. embassy. This is the State Department CIA linkage yet again.
They would have done what I did, which is just gained access placement and loyalty among, Maduro, Cabello, and Tariq's generals or whomever. They would have done the same thing. But the fact that Pompeo shut that embassy down made it impossible for the CIA. I didn't know at the time back then.
So shutting down the State Department embassy made it impossible for the CIA. So they had to use outside private groups.
There was a civil war in the White House. You can that's evidenced by the Russia collusion hoax stuff and all of the evidence that's come out on that, and then the Obama undermining, the Trump administration, as well as, the FBI were tapping Senator Hawley's cell phone. So there's these, back then there were a lot of games being played. Trade crafty kind of games that were being played in the White House that I don't believe that the Trump administration was privy to. They weren't aware of the level of scrutiny and I guess battle that they were under. But it's pretty clear now. And so, I mean, when I look at the 302s more and more, and when I look at the discovery, it's more evident that this was the case. It's just proves what I have, I guess, been saying since the first discovery drop. And I mean, there are several discovery drops coming, every month or so, which are spaced apart for, I guess, the reason of time and distance. I mean, that plays to the hand of the government. But I think that's a very weighty macro standpoint. Does that answer any of your questions, Max?
Not not exactly. I mean, I wanted you to talk about global governments and what it was and
Sure.
who was involved in it and where they fit into this plot. So maybe thanks for that macro perspective, but this is sort of the
Yeah,
as AOC, this would be the micro to the macro.
sure.
AOC
So
would say.
let's drill down on one of the interested parties, yeah?
Yeah.
Of which there are, obviously, you have the intelligence community folks with the FBI and the DEA and Venezuelan opposition folks. And then you have the element, like my team, that was trying to actually do the work as being, hired by and directed by the Trump administration. And then the third component is the global governments. These are the guys who hired me. Their intent or their piece in this was they wanted business contracts, and so they wanted a way to monetize, I suppose, the aftermath of a Maduro-free Venezuela.
Basically,
Pre-coup, helping organize and finance the coup to get a return on investment post-coup by monetizing the post-coup aftermath. This is in every single Soros operation around the world. Soros in Bangladesh, Soros in Mongolia, Soros in Syria, Soros in Ukraine, Soros in Hungary, Soros in Germany, Soros in Brazil. It all works like this. Remember we did that stream where we just straight up listened to War is a Racket, the audiobook? Opening paragraph. Here is the opening paragraph of Smedley Butler's, what was it, 1936 that he wrote this in? What year was it? 1935. 1935. I spent 33 years in the Marines, most of my time being a high-class muscle man for big business for Wall Street and the bankers. I helped make Mexico, especially Tampico, safe for American oil in 1914. I helped make Haiti and Cuba a decent place for the National City Boys to collect revenues in. Haiti and Cuba. I helped in the raping of half a dozen Central American republics for the benefit of Wall Street. I helped purify Nicaragua for the International Banking House of Brown Brothers Harriman in 1909 to 1912. I brought light to the Dominican Republic for American sugar interests in 1916. In China, I helped see to it that Standard Oil went its way unmolested. This is the military general, Smedley Butler, in 1935. 35! It's 100 years ago. And today, it's just intermediated by these groups like Global Governments Center. And we need to see who exactly was in on this, on global governments. Who are these? Are they connected to the Cowboys? Are they connected to the Yankees? Is this like a John McCain Bush family oil and gas thing? Is this like a Soros Yale thing? But they'll each have one. This is what WestExec was. This is what the Clinton Global Initiative is. Like WestExec, as we've talked about a million times, it was a private consulting firm with Jake Sullivan and Tony Blinken and Avril Haines. Who do you think is paying these consultants to direct U.S. foreign policy and influence U.S. foreign policy? It's going to be these big outside financial firms and investment funds.
To exploit Venezuela's resources and get construction contracts and drilling contracts and so on.
Correct, right. Drilling, mining, as you know, Venezuela is resource rich. Also, it needs to be reconstructed, humanitarian efforts, things of that nature. So global.
And what was Paul Soros's, George Soros's brother? Again, I remember I found this. We did a stream on this. I went into WikiLeaks and I found the State Department cables and found the Soros leaks. I went into the WikiLeaks State Department cables and I ran a search for Soros. And before the Open Society Foundation was created in 1979, before George Soros even came up in leaks at all, there were 6 years worth of leaks between the State Department and Paul Soros from 1973 to 1979 between Paul Soros, George Soros's older brother, who does shipping and construction and infrastructure, where the State Department was helping Paul Soros get construction contracts for giant ports and infrastructure deals in Gabon and pre-revolution Iran. These are mega deals to build and control the ports that collect the transit fees for all trade. And that was Paul Soros that the State Department was working for. The State Department was introducing Paul Soros to the president of Gabon and the transportation ministry in Iran so that Soros could get government contracts in Gabon and Iran.
Global governments would have had the contract for all of this. I was brought in because the big hurdle to this was the fact that Venezuela was still under the control of Maduro, the Maduro regime, and they needed somebody to remove him.
Right. In order to get that wealth, they needed you to remove them, to remove
Correct.
him.
Correct.
Okay. And so you have Rowan Kraft, who was a senior advisor to global governments, who was an heir to the Kraft family fortune. And you have Keith Schiller, who was close to the
Rowan Kraft. Sorry, I'm eating. I have one more pizza slice left. Rowan Kraft, Global Governments Center. You said it was an heir to the Kraft family, right? All right, I'll look up all these names later. Let's just keep going.
Trump organization. I guess he was Trump's bodyguard. What was his role? And who were these figures?
So Keith Schiller, I mean, it's funny that he's the bodyguard. He was the head of White House operations, right? So
And sorry to interrupt, but he had an arms export control license, correct?
he did.
Huh? What?
Right, absolutely. And so he was the head of White House operations, I think, until, I don't know, 2018 or something. And then, and this is kind of, it's that position is a pretty heavy title. Keith Schiller basically could come and go to the White House anytime he wanted. He's a very respected figure in the Trump administration. And so he approached me. I guess he learned some of the other work I had done through maybe a mutual acquaintance. And so he contacted me and asked me to come to a meeting, which I agreed to. Rowan Kraft, head of the Kraft dynasty, is a well-connected guy. I mean, he was making phone calls to Admiral Fowler, who was Southcom commander. This was in the very first meeting. He was, you read about all this in the Discovery.
He's making phone calls to the SOCOM commander? Rowan Kraft. They're talking about Kraft. Why is there nothing coming up even on Google? Kraft Heinz. It's Kraft Foods. The third largest food and beverage company in North America. Let's see. Kraft. A ketchup coup? Big Ketchup was the final boss? Venezuela with the largest oil reserves in the world? And it's a ketchup coup? It's Kraft Heinz. So we've had Coca-Cola coups, Pepsi coups. Big Ketchup is in this bitch. Come on. Chicago, huh? A1, Boca Burgers, Grey Poupon, Kool-Aid, a Kool-Aid coup. Philadelphia cream cheese, Velveeta. Yeah, look at all these. No more Oreos. No more Oreos. Remember Trump's feud with, was it with Kraft? Trump, Kraft, Oreos. No more.
Plant into Mexico with their big plant from Chicago.
Oh, Trump versus Kraft. When Kraft wanted to build a plant in Mexico.
Into Mexico with their big plant from Chicago, which means what? No more Oreos. No more Oreos. No more Oreos. Oh, it's going to be tough getting off Oreos.
Oh, that's right. John Kerry. Isn't his wife the Heinz heir? Teresa Heinz Kerry. Oh, so Secretary of State, climate envoy. Oh, wait, Heinz is the widow of John Heinz. Wait, what was that? Am I wrong? Yeah, John Kerry is like married to a. John Kerry has a net worth of $250 million. Yeah, Teresa Heinz, the heiress to the Heinz company fortune, Kraft Heinz. Damn. So you have the Secretary of State's wife for Obama's Secretary of State. Oh, man. That's going to be dirty. Influencing State Department policy to overthrow the government of Venezuela. But what is the Heinz business? Is it because of the agriculture? I wonder. Is it the arable land? Do they own subsidiary businesses? Is it part of a business consortium? There's lots of possibilities. How fascinating.
He made a phone call to Elliot Abrams, which, as it stands, I mean, one of the Venezuelan opposition people who work.
So the guy running the fortune for Barack Obama's Secretary of State can just make personal phone calls to Trump's head of the military for the Southern Command and to the State Department special representative for Venezuela. It's a bipartisan blob, guys.
Worked for Leopoldo Lopez, had a meeting with Elliot Abrams in the White House.
Right.
As did he have a meeting, several meetings. There were several, these individuals I was dealing with on a first name basis and, coming up with tactical operations and strategic operations were Venezuelan opposition guys. These guys seem to have the run of the White House. They were able to have their some of their compatriots like Christopher Figueroa taken off the sanctions list. Christopher Figueroa was the head of the Sabine. He was a torturer, and yet, he was given complete clean slate. I think Forbes did an article on him and said this is a real Venezuelan, and I talked to people who he had tortured. So these guys were greased in with Mike Pompeo, Elliot Abrams.
Same shit with the current head of Syria, who had a $10 million State Department bounty on his head, dead or alive. Did you guys see that tweet today from the special, from the Trump admin? You guys see this? On our side in Syria now? Syria is back on our side. Now that ISIS is in charge, Syria is back on our side. What's another good example? The Azov Battalion, which had sanctions on them in 2014, and those taken off. Tale as old as time.
John Bolton, all of these DC power players, and I was in Colombia with these guys trying to figure it out. But don't let me go too far down the rabbit hole, Max.
Well, let's drill this down. So Nestor Science, this is someone who shows up in the discovery documents that I've reviewed. What role did he play in this? Because I believe he was the one who introduced you to global governments and promised to connect you to Elliot Abrams.
Nestor, what's his name?
Nestor Science. This is someone who shows up.
Nestor Science? Here's some of the documents. Nestor Science. Oh, Rowan Craft. It's Roen. Nestor Science. Okay. So that's who introduces him to global governments. Okay.
In the discovery documents that I've reviewed, what role did he play in this? Because I believe he was the one who introduced you to global governments and promised to connect you to Elliot Abrams and John Bolton, who were...
Okay, so you've got, again, this like structure of the blob here. Okay, so you've got like the target, Maduro government, Venezuela. You've got your government side of the blob. You've like your CIA, Department of War, state, and then you have your donor drafter class. These are the billionaires with their multinational corporations, hedge funds, private equity funds, portfolio companies. And then you've got this mercenary class, like you need a paramilitary street revolution, paramilitary coup operation. And this is what is needed in order to depose this. And so who is the connective tissue between these is this private consulting firm called Global Governments. So Global Governments, this is a really elegant structure if you think about it, because it allows plausible deniability from both the US government and the big boys providing the big money, because the buck stops with global government. So Global Governments is who is going to connect these to this. Does that make sense? You're not going to put the really dirty shit in writing between Exxon, Chevron, big mining and metals companies. They're going to move through this like conduit, this outside consulting firm / lobbying firm / paramilitary recruiting firm, consulting firm. Got it?
In the White House about the plot.
Yeah. So Nestor put me in touch with global governments. He was in the room in the very first meeting, as was, it was George Betancourt, who was obviously, he's the guy,
Jorge Betancourt was Venezuelan, a Venezuelan sort of expat opposition activist, right?
Okay, let's see, who is Nestor Science? Who is this guy that he connected? So Nestor Science was the original connective tissue between global governments and paramilitary. Silvercorp, Jordan Goudreau. Okay, so who is this guy? Nestor Science. He's a former State Department official. Oh my gosh. So the person connecting global governments, the person connecting the outside multinational corporate lobbying firm for the coup and the military side of the coup, the paramilitary side of the coup, was a former State Department official. Eek. Corporate Affairs Director? Oh, wait. Venezuela Emergency Assistance, Confidential, Nestor Science. Wait, is this the same one? Was he working in 2019 as Venezuela Emergency Assistance? USAID Emergency Assistance? Special Purpose Entity, Silver Corp. That's the corporate form of Jordan Goudreau's mercenary army. Global Government Center, Venezuela Emergency Assistance, Confidential. Eek. Venezuela requires massive humanitarian assistance. That's why we're sending a private mercenary army to kidnap the president. This is the most USAID story ever. I know I say that about every USAID story, but fucking thinking about this. This is a military coup organized under the auspices of humanitarian aid. Is there any form of humanitarian aid at USAID that is not, in some sense, a military coup? The logistics for a military coup? To achieve stability, immediately followed by emergency basic services such as comprehensive infrastructure, transport, security. While the sovereignty of Venezuela justifiably causes reluctance by governments to provide aid, corporate represents the best opportunity for Venezuela to meet its immediate near-term and medium-term demands until a new government is duly elected, installed, and its legitimacy established. In response to this deepening humanitarian crisis, a corporate organization is prepared to mobilize essential assets. Guys, as we are shutting down USAID, understand we are causing a proliferation of these type of organizations. As USAID has been decimated and its lingering operations on life support, this is what the blob is going to be doing. Forming millions of little global governments consulting firms to provide corporate money to offset taxpayer money. Do you get it? Mobilization to operation. While humanitarian aid is readily supplied from its origin, the logistical components necessary to deliver materials is complex, requires shipping ports, containers, vessels, port clearance on receipt, truck transport, and ultimately movement into Venezuela itself by discrete means. God damn. I mean, they're saying it outright. Look at all the CIA hands that need to be touched and just to deliver aid, guns into the country, shipping ports, containers, vessels, port clearance. Let me actually do it like this. I'm gonna move this over a little so we can have a little bit more room to maneuver. One sec. So we need shipping ports, vessels, port clearance on receipt, which means you need the union members working the ships and the docks. This is where you get the AFL-CIA, the AFL-CIO international affairs branches in Colombia, next to Venezuela, are going to be getting USAID money. Like, let me just go out on a limb here, all right? USAID, and you're probably going to get Department of Labor, International Affairs, USAID, Unions, Colombia. Let me do before 2020, before 2025, so we don't get all messed up with this. Before 2025. Or Solidarity Center. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. It's Colombia. Oh, my God. Wait, I just saw this here. USAID funded programs aimed at strengthening labor rights and protecting union members in Colombia. The Labor Action Plan. Workers' protections for union workers in Colombia. We're going to get all the unions on USAID payroll so that the logistics at the shipping ports, containers, vessels having to pass through port clearance on receipt. Don't worry, it's all going to be CIA mafia people. Colombian workers, union workers, working the docks on CIA payroll saying, I'm not going to check that shipping container. That one passes. That one with all the guns in it that's marked food and medicine. Yeah, it's the fucking Lufthansa heist from Goodfellas. I'm the Midnight Day Man, right? Lufthansa heist.
28 have to do a 460. I can't believe this guy. Fucking 528 ain't even close to 460 now. What the fuck has that got to do with anything?
I've been playing that number for 3 years. I gotta
Hey, Henry. Piece of cake. It's all there. Don't worry about the alarms. Just gotta find a way to get the key.
No problem, right? Let me get you.
I'll take care of it.
So they're pitching the heist of the Lufthansa flight carrying all these bags of money. And he's saying, don't worry about the alarms. I'm working at the union security people at the airport. Don't worry about the alarms. I'm the Midnight Day Man.
Hey, Jason, how you doing? Good to see you.
Tell him what you were telling me now, French.
Too good to be true. Big score coming from Air France. I mean, like bags of money like this coming in.
Big score coming from Air France. So this is the CIA and USAID and the union workers. This is the USAID funded union workers. Okay. And the money on Air France, the Lufthansa flight, is the government of Venezuela.
Okay? From tourists and American servicemen who change their money around to French money, send it back here. Calm down. Okay, well, it's beautiful, but it's totally untraceable. Okay?
The only problem is getting a key, but I got something all worked out.
Yeah.
Me and Frenchie, this fucking guy, he's just a citizen. So
Yeah, the guy's a piece of work. Now, if I'm right, there could be like a half a mil coming in, all cash.
Yeah, and he said the best time was probably over the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe
But
Saturday
they got the
night.
Jewish holiday on Monday. They won't find out till Tuesday. Beautiful.
What about the security?
No, security. You're looking at it. It's a joke. I'm the Midnight Day Man. I'm the commandant.
What about security? You're looking at him. This is what this private investment firm representing multinational corporations for CIA and State Department battering ram for the donor drafter class to draft off of. And USAID will be funding the unions working the shipping ports, inspecting the containers and vessels for the emergency guns to the paramilitary-backed groups in Venezuela for the military coup, the port clearance on receipt. How are we going to deal with these difficult logistics? Don't worry about it. We're going to have USAID-funded unions. Don't worry about it. Security, you're looking at them. I'm the Midnight Day Man. I'm the commandant.
He just comes in like he's picking up lost baggies with Tommy D. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be a problem at all.
Huh?
That's the heist of a country using USAID.
Nobody knows for sure just how much was taken in the daring pre-dawn raid at the Lufthansa cargo terminal at Kennedy Airport. The FBI says $2 million. Port Authority police say $4 million. The city cops say $5. Lufthansa has not said anything, but they promise to break their silence soon with a press conference.
No, son of a
WINS will be there to cover it live from the scene of the heist at JFK. It looks like a big one, maybe the biggest this town has ever seen. Stay tuned.
And this is this is if any of them get caught afterwards letting guns into the country by their own counterintelligence. This is what will happen to these guys.
Jimmy was cutting every link between himself and the robbery, but it had nothing to do with me.
This is what's happening to Jordan Goudreau right now. The Blob is cutting every link between them and the robbery carried out by Jordan Goudreau and Silvercorp. They're throwing him in jail. He's now facing years in prison for trafficking weapons, even though he was introduced by someone with a weapons trafficking arms license on behalf of the State Department, the CIA, and a bunch of outside multinational corporations, and they're cutting the loose ends.
Jimmy the tip, and he gave me some Christmas money. From then on, I kept my mouth shut. I knew Jimmy. He had the cash. It was his. I know he kicked some money upstairs to Paulie, but that was it. It made him sick to have to turn money over to the guys who stole it. He'd rather whack them. Anyway, what did I care? I wasn't asking for anything, and besides, Jimmy was making nice money with me through my Pittsburgh connections. Still, months after the robbery, they were finding bodies all over. When they found Carbone in the meat truck, he was frozen so stiff it took them 2 days to thaw him out for the autopsy.
And that's what happened to all the Silvercorp people. Look at this. The Solidarity Center, NED, the CIA, as part of USAID's global union program, labor program, partnered with workers in over 30 countries, including Colombia. Rule of law and justice. Oh, my God. Union members. Economic opportunities. Bet your ass they're working with the dock workers unions in Colombia to deal with this exact issue. Helicopters, light aircraft, heavy helicopters, light vessels, marine and aviation assets, oil and gas infrastructure, risk management, global petroleum, energy, and security, construction, transport, a turning point in the future of Venezuela. Compensation. Contact. So the point of contact. To discuss this matter more fully and determine a preferred course of action amongst all parties, please contact to Mr. Nestor Sainz, Corporate Affairs Director. So the Corporate Affairs Director for global governments, corporate affairs, is a former State Department guy. This connective tissue between those two layers of the blob. Oh, man. Let's see. The team, Rowan Kraft, Senior Advisor for Logistics and Transportation. Can you guys see this? Kraft advises the Kraft Family Office, a consolidation of diverse properties first claimed in 1873. Since seeking expansion in the 1980s, Mr. Kraft established local and regional crude and transport vessels for the energy industry. So it is. So the craft is in the oil and gas space. Oh, God. With mineral interests concentrated in the U.S., Eastern Europe, Central Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, and the Caribbean. Timely accomplishing any task the energy industry may experience. God, they put this as number one on the team. Oh, oh, this is like an addendum you can just put right on War is a Racket. Like you could just put this right on it. What is a CIA Department of War regime change operation in Venezuela doing? Only a small group of inside people, only a small inside group knows what it's about. This is a U.S. military general in 1935. You can just say, I helped make Venezuela safe for the Kraft family office investments in oil and crude. Keith Schiller, former deputy assistant to President Trump, director of Oval Office operations, previously director of security for the Trump Organization, head of Trump's protective detail, consultant to the RNC on matters related to security, also advises CEOs, political officials, and security companies in Latin America. Gary Compton, senior advisor, oil and energy. He's been counsel and lobbyist to energy magnate T. Boone Pickens for over 25 years. He represents corporations, pipelines, oil and gas producers, and renewable energy companies, and is a prolific fundraiser for Republicans. Eek! 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 That's these guys. Money for the government and profits for the donor drafted class, recruiting the paramilitary for the government to help and for the donor drafted class to make money off of. And then all these guys will make money from these guys by joining these guys after they're done here. Holy shit, man. I can't take it. I can't take it. Oh, oh my God. You can't. If this was not a fucking court document accessible in Discovery, you would have people on Twitter saying Benz is making shit up. Look at him drawing the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia crazy lines. Look at him with the charts and the graphs. Except it's all fucking right here, you asshole. In fucking Discovery documents in court. And firsthand testimony from the fucking defendant who was tasked to do this with the help of the CIA and these multinational oil giants. God damn. I want to see if like shipping unions, Columbia, Solidarity Center, Ned. The AFL-CIA's Solidarity Center expands operations in Latin America. Let's see, Colombia. Let's see. I know it's here. I can feel it. In Colombia, the Solidarity Center provides support to trade unions in the mining. In the mining section. Here you go. The CIA Solidarity Center. This is NED, created by the CIA in 1983. While Elliot Abrams was running Latin America policy for the State Department. Empowering workers in Brazil, Colombia, and Peru. manufacturing, energy, agriculture, mining sectors. Oh my gosh. All right, let's get back to this.
No more Oreos. No more Oreos. No more Oreos.
It's a lot bigger than Oreos because evidently, while the Kraft family made its money off of Oreos, as it turns out, the Kraft family office, the investment funds managed by the Kraft family, are in oil and gas. Regional crude. And has been since the 1980s. Damn. Okay, Nestor Science. Okay, so here's the guy, the interlocutor between, this is the corporate affairs director. Corporate. So he's the liaison between the consulting firm and the corporations, but he formerly worked for the State Department. He's the guy who is the go-between right here. So this is Nestor. But with over 20 years of international experience, Nestor is a master interlocutor. No, they use the word. A master go-between. This is what Jeffrey Epstein was. A master interlocutor. His bio describes himself as a master go-between among diverse organizations such as paramilitary, street revolution, and military coup plotters, government agencies, and multinational corporations cashing in on the post-coup business environment. Yeah. Masterful. And is particularly effective in adverse settings. He has extensive experience working with foreign governments and companies. It's exactly what it is. Governments and companies. And advising senior U.S. government officials in Latin America, Europe, Africa, and Asia. So they're doing the same thing in Europe, in Ukraine, the same thing in Africa, in the Sahel, or in West Africa, and Asia. Same thing in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Philippines. While a high-level official within the U.S. Department of State, Nestor managed a portfolio of security programs and multi-million-dollar budgets for U.S. missions worldwide. And what's he do afterwards? This is what they tried to do with me. My friends and family who didn't want me to go down this road. When I was Deputy Assistant Secretary for the big tech portfolio for the U.S. State Department, they wanted me to go be a lobbyist for Google and Facebook. They have a big trade association lobbying group. And that lobbying group is that interstitial between the donor drafter class, the top side of the blob, and the gut section of the blob. That trade association is like global governments. And you make a lot more money as a consultant here than you do as a deputy assistant secretary here. And you know it when you're on the inside. Everyone talks about it. I had a lot of my life collapse because I did not choose this route starting here. Because I didn't go down the Nestor Science route. Going straight from managing a huge portfolio and a big team at state with all your high-level connections to industry stakeholders and being a good little boy and then going to work for your little interstitial. Nestor coordinated democratic program initiatives for Latin America at the National Democratic Institute, NDI. He was at NDI, the NED DNC CIA branch. Holy shit, man. Holy shit. NDI, our last stream was on NDI. Or I guess our last stream was on, I guess this was 2 streams ago, but we've done a million streams on NDI. Remember we found NDI's OnlyFans? NDI corporate partners. What was it, 2008? When we're doing, because Randy Weingarten is NDI. Remember we were going over this? The NDI corporate partnership group. Former Secretary of State under Bill Clinton, Madeleine Albright, who's on the board of directors for NDI. Fucking not only Don Brazil, but Randy fucking Weingarten. And this is where Nestor Science was. The Democrat wing of the Central Intelligence Agency. But then he's helping the Trump government overthrow the government of Venezuela. This is what I mean. Venezuela is so bipartisan. Soros wants to overthrow the government and Trump. Like this is why I don't even weigh into this. Like there's not even like a foothold of something to argue against. So it's like the exception to everything I talk about. Like we shouldn't have we shouldn't have these USAID gay ops. Oh, but there's Venezuela. And there's no stopping the gay op force for it. So okay, all right, fine. I'll create a Venezuela, get out of like whatever. If we can scale these things massively back and we can invest in America and like there's just no stopping the Venezuela train, fine. I can live with, a 95% victory on this stuff. But this is kind of why like this is a private stream. Like this is NDI. This is literally the DNC branch of the CIA, the DNC branch of Ned. To being the Republican government's the Trump administration State Department, Trump administration CIA, Trump administration Pentagon. Remember, we found the corporate partners of NDI. Chevron, Citigroup, Eli Lilly, ExxonMobil, Johnson Johnson, Lockheed Martin, De Beers Diamonds, Microsoft, Shell, of course, Shell, where you get personal briefings, country specific briefings. You can meet foreign dignitaries and ambassadors in personal settings to be able to lobby them for your corporation. And that's what Nestor Science was doing, rotating between the State Department, the National Endowment for Democracy, and global governments. So you just know that there's a Ned layer here. You just know. And this is what I mean. The Solidarity Center will fund the unions to do the logistics. All this stuff about the unions, that's why the Solidarity Center is in Colombia, to take care of this logistics problem. This one, shipping ports, containers, vessels, port clearance on receipt. Damn. So this is the guy, the master interlocutor. Jesus. That's who sets this up. State Department, we don't have a U.S. embassy anymore, which means the CIA is neutered inside of Venezuela. We want the money and the resources. So we go to this outside group to recruit our little Ryan Routh type guy. This is like how Ryan Rouths get created, guys, by the way. Remember when I talked about all the CIA connections with Ryan Routh? But then I see it get misreported where like I'm saying Ryan Routh worked for the CIA. No. Like Jordan Goudreau did not technically work for the CIA. The CIA would work with global governments and global governments would just pay as a private service. You get these links of plausible deniability. Ryan Routh was doing these paramilitary recruiting operations, getting terrorist fighters from Syria and Iran and Afghanistan to travel to Ukraine to kill Russians, working through the U.S. Embassy in Kiev to get them passports after collecting 5,000 plus passports from Telegram and WhatsApp and Facebook. He was recruiting a paramilitary army, probably through a friend or contact at one of these like boutique consulting firms run by former State Department officials. Fuck.
And he said he had contacts in the CIA.
Yeah, so he was meeting frequently with the CIA.
Oh my God. So your Ned State Department guy is meeting frequently with the CIA. Wow. Surprise of all surprises. Let's go back to this.
Sort of expat opposition activist, right? And he said he had contacts in the CIA.
Yeah, so he was meeting frequently with the CIA. He was meeting with the
And mind you, you make a lot more working for global governments than you do at the CIA. Your pay at the CIA is dirt. That's why Tom Donilon running the BlackRock Investment Institute turned down the job of CIA director. That's why Maurice Greenberg at AIG turned down CIA director for Bill Clinton. That's why Tom Donilon turned down the job of CIA director for Joe Biden. Because you make way more money here or on a board seat here with equity than you do here. Maximum paycheck at CIA. CIA director is like $220K. You make more as a first year lawyer in a New York City firm than the head of the Central Intelligence Agency. That's why they all go here or here afterwards. And sometimes you'll double up your income at a university, Harvard University or FIU. God damn. Let's see who else. Andrew Davis, director in the Washington, D.C. office. Oh, what do you know? International relations from the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Science. Huh, that's crazy. How many times have I talked about Johns Hopkins as another one of these interstitial, Johns Hopkins specifically, the SAIS, School of Advanced International Studies. Johns. Tonight, I got lost in D.C. and discovered three of the biggest CIA vectors in the civil society space. Brookings, the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies, and Carnegie Endowment for International Peace are all literally right next to each other on the same block. The Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies. And where is this other guy at global governments? He is at the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies.
Dam, dadilam, vacarme, s'en va dans l'oubli éternel. Et Gustave, dom guardiam, dilim, didididilam, lute sera dodilam, seram, dim, dim.
They're all right next to each other on the same block. You can shout out the window at the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies and yell to someone at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace that Bill Burns, the CIA director, ran, and that Eric Ciamarella, the CIA guy behind the impeachment, immediately went to after the CIA. God damn. Let's see, in German Chica, strategic advisor. Look at this. They've got breaching, Hydra Rams, Titan Crash Axe, Black Hawk Mini Bolt Master. Here's the cost per individual soldier. Iron sights, ballistic helmet, tactical Scorpion gear level, M4 mags, M4 ammo. Hey, that's weird. I thought this was supposed to be a USAID project. Right? Isn't this about massive humanitarian assistance? So why is the very same court document have line items that you're paying for soldiers with mags, ammo, Hydra Ram, what, for breaking doors or border walls? Paratech Titan Crash Axe, Black Hawk Mini Bolt Master, ballistic helmets, night vision goggles. What the fuck does this have to do with humanitarian assistance? Oh, because you're using the lie of aid for a CIA-backed paramilitary military coup. Like you always fucking do. With your Venezuela aid. This is what Venezuela aid and Lele Pons and Sir Richard Branson with their music to open the borders of Venezuela to let 23 USAID trucks filled with, I'm sorry, what's the what's going to be in these USAID trucks? Fucking tactical gear, Hydra breaching rams, handheld power cutters, Paratech Titan Crash Axe, Black Hawk Mini Bolt Busters, night vision goggles, rifle slings, Viking Tactics Original Black, optical red dot sights for your M4 fucking ammo and mags, tactical Scorpion gear, body armor. Fuck you, man. This is USAID Manifest.
Just a moment, you just assured me that I could speak.
Sit down inside the car. We're not assuring anything. We're under arrest.
Look, I'm under what? Gentlemen, this is Democracy Manifest. Have a look at the headlock here. See that chap over there? Get your hand off my penis! This is the bloke who got me on the penis before.
Get some cuffs.
Why did you do this to me?
Hop in the car. Get some cuffs.
For what reason? What is the charge? Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal? Oh, that's a nice headlock, sir.
What is the charge? Delivering rifle slings, tactical gear, night vision goggles, magazines and ammunition for high-powered rifles, battering rams, crash axes, and mini bolt blasters in a USAID truck. This is USAID Manifest. There it is. There's your price. $50,000 per soldier. That's what USAID is paying for here. Holy shit, man. Holy shit, man.
The Colombian intelligence, the Colombian DNI, and he would speak freely about it. So he was an asset for these intelligence agencies. He was in the room, the very first meeting in I guess it was Miami, as was global governance, who were basically an envoy for the Trump administration to try to get this, the ball rolling on this entire thing. And so,
but again, right now, we are trying to get the National Endowment for Democracy shut down. There's a big battle in the Hill. And as I've said, IRI, the Republican wing of NED, is making reforms to try to align with the Trump administration. But NDI is not. So all of NED should be shut down. They can't have these rogue cells. But NDI is fucking Nestor Science. And they have all these connections inside of Latin America with bipartisan support from both Republicans and Democrats to overthrow those governments. He coordinated the Latin America program for NDI. And he was helping the Trump government to overthrow Venezuela. And he was the connective tissue between global governments and Silvercorp, Jordan Goudreau's paramilitary. But this is why it's so hard to shut down NED. Because even something like the Randy Weingarten's NDI, Republicans don't want to shut down because of Venezuela and a handful of other countries. Do you see how tough the job is for me here? Fuck.
So you had this setup. You had these two entities, right? You had this intelligence community, and you had the global governments guys, and then you had my team in the middle. So
no, your team was not in the middle, Jordan. Your team was at the bottom. That's why you're disposable.
And so your team was basically the muscle. You were going to kick in the doors and get it done. And
I mean, maybe metaphorically, but I'm not interested in the invasion. That would be an Eric Prince.
You were running the logistics to the coup faction on the inside. Oh my God. We're at 3 hours and 40 minutes. I can't believe we're at 3 hours. We only made it through 15 minutes of this hour 20 video. Again, I'm not trying to throw shade. I'm sure that the people in Venezuela are being oppressed by their communist government. Okay? There's another thing that makes it shitty. This is not like a Ukraine situation where we cooed like a decent Ukrainian government voted on in a free and fair election out of office in 2014. Like, the Venezuelan people have been under this shit since like 1998. It's been a fucked up situation. I'm sorry, I'm going on the leg day stuff, as Fiona just pointed out. But, okay, let's just keep going.
If that was, I had seen his prospectus and his, what he was kind of trying to sell at that point. And that was invasion. I didn't,
Eric Prince from Blackwater, who's very close to Trump Incorporated, was furnishing a prospectus and trying to raise money for an armed invasion of Venezuela.
Okay, so Eric Prince was trying to do an armed invasion, and I guess CIA, DOD, Trump admin didn't want to endorse a full-on military invasion because there's a lot of international and diplomatic fallback from that sort of thing. So instead of having a Blackwater private military contractor, they used this paramilitary logistics to help the military coup go through.
Venezuela, and you saw it.
Right. And so, I think that I am, about half of my training in special operations is human intelligence. Quite frankly, I mean, we learn it very early on. We learn to work by, with, and through people on the ground. And so I'm not interested in banging it out with Venezuelan regulars, right? Otherwise, it kind of defeats the purpose. And so,
no, but your assets on the ground will be banging it out with Venezuelan regulars. And you know this. That's why you said your job is to help accomplish a military coup with assets inside Venezuela already. All right, so here's my concern. I really want to get through this video, but we have a huge stream tomorrow. We're already tomorrow doing like 4 different countries. We're doing Poland, we're doing the Philippines, we're doing Kosovo, Serbia, and Ukraine. We're doing like 5 countries tomorrow. So I don't know that we'll have time to return to this on tomorrow's stream. But you know what I think I'm going to do? Since we're already at 3:40 and I need to get some sleep because